Good evening. Welcome to a midsummer. Oh, it's a wait a minute. Welcome to a mid-spring night stream. It's kind of a Shakespeare joke. I'm going to talk about Azure Media Services, streaming video, both video on demand and live video using Azure Media Services, which is a cloud-based tool from Microsoft. Before I do that, I'll introduce myself. My name is David. I work for Microsoft. I'm a software engineer there. I spend a lot of time online. You could read my thoughts at my blog, davidgiard.com. I also have a couple of TV shows. The first one, Technology and Friends, I've been doing for about 12 years, where I interview smart people about technology. And the second one I've been doing for about 3 years, and it's brief screencasts in fact, some of what I talk about is you can actually watch it on there. And then my Twitter tag is below that. Go ahead and reach out to me there. It's also my Instagram tag as well. Streaming media, audio and video, presents some challenges. You want to make your video available to other people around the world to see it, and that involves publishing that media, getting it into a place where it's accessible, and making it available to the world, or at least your section of the world, the people that you want to see it. And those people, they might not be homogeneous. They might have the same computer types. They might not have the same operating systems or video players. Their screen sizes might be different. Some of them might have these gigantic screens. Some of them might be watching on a phone. They may have different bandwidths. Those people on a phone, they may be connected through a wireless network, which is really slow. They might be in a country that doesn't have great Wi-Fi, or they might be at home with extremely fast internet connections. You want to take that into account when you're sharing your videos. You want to add security. You want to make sure if there's something sensitive that it's being only shared with the people that you want it to be shared with. If you have something that's time sensitive, that you only want to share it for a certain amount of time, you want to be able to turn it off at that time. Maybe you've only bought the rights to a video for the next 30 days, for example. And then there's some things that you can do with video that are just interesting, that yield some really good productive results, like adding closed captioning, analyzing a video and listening to what the speaker is saying and generating a file so that you can display captions, or what they call subtext, at the bottom of the screen. So people that are hard of hearing can watch it and understand it, or people that are just maybe temporarily hard of hearing because they're in a loud place, they can watch it and understand what's going on. Maybe you want to use it for things like object detection or facial recognition, or finding out when scenes change. Maybe you want to be able to send your video around the world. Content Delivery Network is great for that because it takes static content and makes copies of it all around the world, so that people in Asia, for example, can watch a local copy of it, and they don't have to request a copy all the way in Chicago and bring it back down. And then, of course, live streaming presents its own challenges. That's when you take you don't just take an archived video and ask people to and allow people to play it on demand, but you take something like this, like what we're doing right now. I'm speaking, and you're listening to me in real time, or at least near. There may be a half-second delay in this case because it's going out to outer space first and then coming back down, but it's near real time. All of these things can be accomplished with Azure Media Services. And Azure Media Services is a part of Azure, which I think you all know this, but Azure is Microsoft's cloud computing platform, and it allows you to build and deploy your services in a highly scalable, highly reliable way. So here's some animation I created to illustrate what I was just talking about. If you wanted to publish a video, you've got a video, I've recorded it with my cell phone, or I've recorded it with my whole full studio set here. I want to get it online. I want to get into the cloud. Azure Media Services actually uses Azure Storage to persist all of its assets. So what happens is you send a file to Azure Media Services, it stores it in Azure Storage, and then it maintains a pointer to that. So within the portal or within your code, you can always access that. You know exactly where it is. The next step you want to do is to encode that video, encoding it, making it available to different people in different formats. And what that'll do is Azure Media Service will create a job, which will turn it into a format like a WMA or an MP4 in the size or sizes that you request, and it'll store those back into Azure storage. If you want to analyze the video, do object detection, face detection, speech to text, things like that, there are services for that. You create a job, you run that job, pull that video out of Azure storage, analyze it, and it'll create a bunch of files and store those files in Azure storage. Those files are referred to as assets. When I say that Azure Media Services keeps track of which files they put into Azure storage, what I'm talking about are assets. Azure Media Services refers to it as an asset. An asset will point to a container in Azure Blob Storage, and that container can contain one or more files. And those files might be video files, they might be audio files, they might be the output of analysis, they tend to be JSON files, they might be closed caption files, and there are formats for that, like VTT is one of those. They might be thumbnails, which you can have Azure Media Services generate. And then we distinguish between input assets and output assets. Input assets are those things that, in this case, the arrow going up is an input asset, and the arrow coming out is the output asset. So here's this picture of, there's a relationship between an asset in Azure Media Services and one or more files in Azure Blob Storage. There's a one-to-one relationship between an Azure Media Services asset and an Azure Storage Blob container. And that container can contain many files. Or it can contain one file. And as I said, those files can be media files, they can be text files, they can be binary files, they can be zip files, all sorts of things. Live streaming is a lot like that. I'm sorry, this isn't much. This is just streaming. Once you have it encoded and available to Azure Media Services as an asset, and you're pointing to it as some files in Azure Storage, then you can create something called a locator. A locator is just a URL that tells the viewer where to find these files. And streaming will just pull these files out of Azure Media Services and make them available to a client. And what's nice is it can make them available to lots of different clients simultaneously. It scales really well. And those clients don't have to be homogeneous. They can be different sizes, different bandwidths, different operating systems, and so on. Live streaming, it's a little bit harder. We've got to continually take a feed and continually stream it out like we're doing right now and send those images out to the client. And those images, again, can scale out to many, many different computers all around the world, and they can be all different formats and sizes. And then by default, live streaming will also save a copy, an archived copy of that video. So if later on you want to allow people to view it on demand, you can do that. And I just created a new slide a second ago. There's also an SDK there's a portal for doing this, and there's an SDK for doing that, and I just copied some code here. But let me just do the demo here. Are there any questions at this point? I'm pretty much done with the slides. All right. Okay, what I want to do is go to the Azure portal, which is here. So this is, if you don't have an Azure account, you can go to azure.com, which redirects you to here, and then try Azure for free. It's right there. Or if your employer has an MSDN account, that includes some Azure hours as well. All right, this is the Azure portal, portal.azure.com, and we would create anything in the portal is with this big plus button, create a resource. I click on that, and I type in media services. Find Azure Media Services, and then I click create. This little description tells me what it is, and asks me some questions. What resource group do I want to place this in? A resource group, as you probably know, is just an organizational unit that allows me to keep related things together. I'm going to create a brand new one here. I'm going to call it DG test. I always call my demo stuff starts with DG, which is my initials, test. This means way I know to delete it later. DG test CNUG AMS for Azure Media Services. I'm sorry, yeah, AMS RG. How about that? CMS AMS. Let's do that. Okay. And that'll be the resource group. I'm going to give a name to this Azure Media Service account. I'll call it DG test CNUG AMS. I'll put it into the north central US because that's where everybody here is from, in and around Chicago. Storage account, I'll create a brand new storage account here. I'm going to call this one DG test CNUG AMS storage, and I'll leave the defaults there for that. Okay, and for some reason it didn't select it, so I got to make sure I select that. And this is the less things I'll just leave as defaults. Down here, I want to check this. This says that I'm not going to share anything to which I don't have the rights. So I can't put Disney movies in here because I don't have the rights to share those. So I go in here, and this just takes a few seconds to deploy, and it'll create a brand new Azure Media Services account. And there it is. It's ready to go. And what I'm mostly interested in here are these assets. And I don't have any assets yet. I haven't, because I just created this account. But I can create one. And the easiest way to create one is just to upload a video file. So I'll go over here and move that out of the way. And it asks me, I can actually have multiple storage accounts here. I only have one, so it doesn't really matter. But that's a storage account where I'm going to place these assets. And I'll come in here, and I created a folder here called CNUG, and there's a video in here. Let me show you the video. Let's see. Right here. Here's the video. Media services are fun and awesome. All right, so there's the video of this good-looking guy. I'm going to grab that video here. It's a really short one. I'm going to give it a name. I'll call it DG Awesome. And again, it asks me, are you sure you have the rights to this? It's not like copyrighted by Marvel Comics or something. Close it. And there it is. And if I open this asset up, you'll see that it actually points to a storage container. If I click on that, it'll show me the storage container. Here it is. This is Azure Blob Storage right there. It's inside of a container. It gave it this weird name to the container, but that's where it is. And there's just one file in here, this MP4 file that I just uploaded. So there's that relationship between an asset and a storage container, which can contain one or more files. All right. So what? I've got a file up in the cloud somewhere. Let's do something with it. We're going to, let's encode it, make it available to other folks. And the way we encode it is with a job. This button right here in the asset says add a job. And right here, I'm going to say you can either use existing or create new. Use existing is dimmed out because I don't have anything. There are no existing ones. It's brand new. So I'll create a brand new one. And the job is based on a transform. A transform is essentially a template for a job. Transform says these are the steps that I want to do. The job is actually doing it. So I'm going to create a transform first. I'll call it DG Awesome Encode Transform. I like to name things explicitly. I can put a description here if I want to. And then here you can see that encoding is an option. I'll come back to the other ones later. The output asset, I'll call this one DG Awesome Encoded. Here, I'll do it like that, encoded. And the storage account, again, I could have multiple ones, but there's only one there. The job name, I'll call it DG Awesome Job. So this job is based on this template. I could later on come back and say use existing and grab this thing and do another job if I want to. Job priority, let's make it high. I don't think it really makes much difference for such a small job, but I'll do that. And down here, you can also, this is a really short video, but if I want to, I can say don't encode all of it. Just start at 10 seconds in and go for the next 5 seconds or something like that. This is a really short video, so I won't do that here. Just wanted to show you that's there. Oh, and the preset, I skipped that one. Here, you can see there are different bit rates, and these are ideal for, oh gosh, if there's different sizes of video. So some of them will be smaller, more ideal for smaller devices or low bandwidth. I like to do adaptive streaming is a nice one because it lets you it'll encode it in multiple formats and in multiple sizes so that people can decide, or maybe their browsers can decide exactly how they're going to run this, display this video. All right, so a job was added, and I can go back to my Azure Media Services, and I've got a blade down here called Transforms and Jobs. You see there's the transform, and below that there's the job. And it has a state right now. It's in the processing state. I think it goes from like queued to processing to finished. Sometimes it might go to error if there's a problem, but here, and now it's finished. It only took about 24 seconds total. But you can monitor on a longer video. It'll of course take longer time to do that. So it's ready to go. I now have a job, or the job is done, and it actually created another asset. If I go back to assets here and refresh it, there's my DG Awesome encoded. There's that asset right there, and it points to another container. If I open that up, there's a storage container, and there's a bunch of stuff in here. And you can see that there are MP4 files here, and each one, if you look at the name of it, you can kind of figure out what it is. It is 1024 by 576, 320 by, it talks about the resolution in the name. So different bandwidths or different screen sizes might be appropriate for each one of those. And then there's also a manifest file right here, which has information about what each one of these things is. All right. How do I get rid of this? Can I dock that somewhere? Oh, there it is. Got it. Okay. So I've encoded it. Let me go back to Azure Media Services here. And I didn't actually need to close that. Let me go back to my asset, exactly where I was. This asset, the encode asset. What I want to do is I want to create a streaming locator. I can click it here or up here. Either one's fine. If I click on a streaming locator, then I can specify how can people stream this only? Can they download only? Can they download and stream? Am I going to add digital rights management to it? I'm going to select download and clear streaming both. It has an expiration date on here, which you can set. By default, it's 100 years in the future. 2121, but if you want something to end, say 2021, if you want this to end, say tomorrow at 7:31 p.m., that's fine. And I click on add, and now it's added, and I can start it right here. And once I start it, I should be able to see it in here. Up here, you can see that it is still running. There it is. It started. And awesome. I had it on mute, but this is the video here. So there it is. It's now available. And all you have to do is tell your users to log into your Azure Media Services account and go to this blade. No, you wouldn't do that. I'm being silly. What you'll do is you'll take the locator. You can click on this and see all these URLs down here. So if they wanted to get specifically to this 1024 by 576 MP4, they could just grab that one. Or this right here, if I copy that, it's hard to see. Can I go to the end here? That's a /manifest file at the end of that. If I copy that, then, in fact, I think I can just paste that right here, and you'll see that this file, if I open it up, if I open it in Visual Studio Code, you'll see that it is in fact a JSON, or I'm sorry, it's an XML file right there that has information about all of these things here. So what I can do with this file is I can embed it into a video tag in a web page. That's probably what you're most likely to do. And I have a file like that. It's right here. Let's close that, close that. In here, I called it playit.html. Let me open that up in Visual Studio Code. And here we go. This is a simple file. I've got a couple of scripts right here that are included that came from Azure Media Player, a CSS and one script. But really, other than that, it's just a video tag. And the source is that manifest right there. So I just pasted that URL in here. And once I do that, I should be able to open this up as a web page. Azure Media Services are fun and awesome. And there it is. And you can customize this any way you want and just add it to your website, add it to your web page. And now I'm sharing videos. So that's pretty cool. Let's take another step further. Any questions with that part? Okay. Let's go back here and do some analysis. I mentioned that I can analyze an asset. So I'll go back to my original asset. This is just the file that I uploaded. And I'll add a different job. And this job, see now I have used existing. I can just create a job based on that encoding transform. But I'm going to create a brand new one here. I'm going to call it, what do I call it? DG Awesome Analysis Transform. And instead of selecting encoding, I'll select in video and audio analyzer. I could do these two right here, but this is actually does this and a bunch of other stuff. So I'm going to select this one. And I want to do video and audio. It asks me about language detection because it will do speech to text. It'll also do OCR, optical character recognition. If there's some text on screen, it'll analyze that. And you can tell it, figure out what language it is. Listen to what they're saying and figure out, look at the text on screen and just guess at the language based on that. Or I could tell it, and I happen to know that I was speaking English. In fact, I was speaking US English, so I'll give it that hint. And then the output name, I'll call it DG Awesome Analysis. Store everything in the same storage account. The job name, I'll call it DG Awesome Job. Priority, let's give it a high priority because we're special. And that's it, create. Click on create. It'll add the job. If I click on this, it'll actually go to, open the job directly. This is exactly the same as what I did before when I went to, what is it, opened up here, went down to transforms and jobs, found the job, DG Analysis Transform, and see that it's processing and opened up. It's exactly the same thing. And we'll see that it's processing here, and this might take maybe a minute or so for a small file like this. I have another file that's about 20 minutes long, and it takes about 15 minutes to process it. So let's wait for that to finish. And in fact, actually, we don't have to wait for it to finish because I did this yesterday, and I have a file right here. This is based on the same video, and so it has the same file here, and it does things like, here's the transcript, there's the text. It's 86% sure that that's the text. That's the text from 0 to 7 seconds. On a longer video, it'd probably have multiples of these. Optical character recognition, it didn't do a good job with that. I had some posters in the background, and they were kind of obscured by my face, so it didn't see it very well. But you can see that it's trying to do this. It detected some text at between 1.5 and 2 seconds, and some more at between 2 and 2.5 seconds. So it's figuring out this stuff. What else is in here? Some words. That's all text here. I think we're still in that. Oh yeah, the faces. It detected the one face, which was mine. It didn't, if it was a famous person, it would figure that out. It would recognize that famous person and with a confidence level. There's an array of them here from 0 to 1/3 of a second, and from 0.1 seconds to 0.2 seconds, a whole bunch of them here. So I guess as every time I blinked, it detected the face again, and it knew it was the same face. It's doing thumbnails. What else is it doing here? Scroll way down here. It's doing some emotion. Oh, it's detected some keywords. It's a smile. I was smiling. It knows that it's indoors. It knows that I was wearing glasses. So I had a beard in that video. I've since shaved it off. So things like this, and each one of these, it has a confidence level. It says 92% sure that was a guy smiling in that video, at least between 1.3 and 2.6. All sorts of information is in here. It's split it up into scenes and shots within the scene. Did sentiment analysis. So I listened to what I was saying and decided this was a pretty positive thing. I had the word awesome in there, but for half a second, I was neutral. And then there was some joy. all sorts of information in here. Even the words that I said. Interesting. I think that's new. I didn't see that before. So all sorts of things. It's all in a JSON format. You can parse this out and you can do all sorts of clever things with it, what you want. So this is one of the files that's generated. This is done. In fact, I'll show you all the files. If I go back to assets, you'll see one more asset in here. This one, just created by that analysis. Here are the files. There are a whole bunch of them. The one that I was looking at was an earlier version of this, insights.json. But there are also thumbnails. There's one main thumbnail. There's a whole bunch of thumbnails for keyframes. There's, if you just want to only look at the emotions, you can get that, or only the faces, it'll parse that out. These are basically subsets of this. Only look at the OCR, things like that. Transcripts are really interesting. Let me see if I can bring the transcripts up. If I download this, these are standard formats for closed captioning. In fact, if I grab this here and just download it there, then I can look into the downloads folder and see this VTT file. Where is that? Let's open VS Code. And there it is. It's Azure Media Services are fun and awesome right here. So this is a short video, so I did it like this, but sometimes you'll get something that'll be like from 0 to 3 seconds, and then from 3 to 7 seconds. Sometimes you get something like that. And so it'll display across the screen one line at a time. Let's go ahead and use that one. We're going to use that file. And the way we use that, I have a video tag already in here, which I commented out. And I can uncomment that here, and I change the source. But there's one little gotcha, is these have to be, this VTT file has to be in the same folder as the video file. So what I'll do is I'll go into my assets here. Let's see. This container, let me close that and close that. Oh. Storage account, where's the storage account? Let me go to this resource group. DG test, right there. And then here is my storage account. Let me go into the container. You know, I shouldn't have done that. The better way to do it is just to come to this. I really want to put it into here. That's the storage account I want. So I want to put that VTT file in here, and I can just upload it into here. Upload, select a file. Just go on over to my downloads folder and grab the transcript VTT. So now, it's in here in the same folder. So now what I can do is take everything up to here, put it in here, and then it's the name of the file, which was transcript.btt. And I think that's right. Let's just see. Do I still have it open? I don't. Let me go ahead and grab it right here. This is when I was editing. Azure Media Services are fun and awesome. So there it is. That's the file, and it's even got the modification that I made. I can come in and still have it open. I do, and edit it. Just to prove that nothing crazy is going on here. I'll go back into here and upload that file again with a change. I had a bunch of exclamation points. Here, overwrite the file, upload right there. And now refresh that. Azure Media Services are fun and awesome. So that's pretty cool. Oh, I didn't show you this. I totally skipped this here. Look at this. If I hover over it, I can select what resolution I want. Right now it's on auto. It's probably showing the highest resolution. I'm at home right now on a high-speed band. But I could do that one right there. I don't know if you'll see a difference on this screen here. But Azure Media Services are fun and awesome. But it's a little bit grainier. I can see it on my screen, but I'm not sure how well it translates through this Zoom call. But it's a lower resolution. This would be ideal. It's still, you can still hear me. You can still figure out that it's me and as a person talking. But it would work if you're on your phone, you're out in your, in the middle of a field somewhere. That would be ideal for that. And the fact that it supports this auto, your browser is smart enough to auto detect what the speed is and communicate with the server and give you the file size that's appropriate for your connection. That's pretty cool. All right, I'm going to pause right here for some more questions, if there are any. All right, now I don't get this back.
Hey, David.
Yes. How do I get the Zoom thing back? Meeting info? No, that's not it. Go ahead. What's your question?
Thank you. Yeah, thank you for sharing all these details. I was hoping if we will go behind the scenes to see how it's all done. It looks like that's not the scope of this session.
What do you mean when you say behind the scenes?
Like behind the scenes, how encoding, processing is done. Like we are only seeing the front end side of this whole encoding and processing of video. Like behind the scenes, what's the architecture?
Oh, I don't have insight into the architecture of Azure Media Services itself. Other than what I've showed you, that the assets point to Azure Blob Storage. I mean, there is some secret sauce inside of there once you create a job, and I'm sure there's some queuing going on. And
that's fine.
However, what I can show you is that there's an SDK and a NuGet package that allows you to do stuff like this. So if you want to build your application, you don't have to use that portal. It sounds like you're more of an engineer and you're a code guy. You want to know what's going on. Everything works from this client right here. Let me find that. There's an object here called a client, and this Azure Media Services client. Once you have that, then you can do client dot assets dot create or update async, delete async. I mean, you could do delete, but delete is the web, so async is probably better. Get async, things like that. List async, get all the assets that are in here. So you can build your applications to do that. And this is an actual application that I'm working on that's designed to encode video and then do some analysis on it, figure out who's in it, and split it up into scenes and show the most popular scenes. Let people say what part of the video they like the best, things like that.
Okay, thank you. That's helpful.
Yeah, and there's also client dot jobs dot. If you wanted to create a new job, then you can do that programmatically. All sorts of things. So if you want to do your own analysis, you're doing encoding and things like that. So that's very cool. I won't go into too much detail with that. That's you could spend days. You could have a whole week-long course on the coding model, but that's what it is. What I would like to do is show you some live streaming, because that's a little bit harder. And the way I do live stream, I need one more piece of this. I need to have something locally which is capable of broadcasting live streaming. What I'll do with live streaming is I'm going to broadcast to Azure Media Services. Actually, I'm not really broadcasting. I'm sending it directly to Azure Media Services. Azure Media Services that will do the broadcasting. And when it does the broadcasting, it can do it in a highly scalable, highly reliable way, and it can take care of all the things like encoding it in different formats so different viewers can watch it. And it will archive it for later viewing on demand. So let me show you that. The way I do that is you need some tool, and I have a tool that I've installed. It's called I totally forgot what it's called. It's called Wirecast. Wirecast. And it's from Telestream. And they have a free version here. The free version is not you wouldn't use it for production because it puts a watermark and everything, and about every 10 seconds it says, "This is Wirecast, you cheapskate, buy the other one," or something like that. So but that's what I'm using. It's good for playing around and using this stuff here. So let me launch Wirecast here. And I'll maximize it. And the way that it works is that you can add a layer here. You can do like video capture or screen capture. I'll do screen capture right there. Add that. And I can also do video capture, but it won't let me do it while I'm showing my face. Let me see. I'm going to try this. Sharing. Let me stop the video here. My camera won't let me have two things using the same time. And then I think I can use the video capture there. That worked, I think. Yeah, there it is. That is working. All right. And let me also silence these things so you don't hear it advertising itself. And the way it works is you'll, this is the preview. If I click on that, then it does it takes the preview and moves it into live. This is what you'll see. All right, so what I need to do in terms of Azure Media Services is go back over here to Azure Media Services and create a live event, live streaming event right here. Add a live event. I'll give it a name. I'll call it DG Test CNUG Live. That's fine. Everything else, I think you can just use the defaults here. And I have the rights to everything I'm going to do here. That's good. Create. It was created. There it is. I'll go ahead and start it right now. You could put it on standby if you're not quite ready to start it because it takes a few seconds to start up. And then this URL is what I need. I'm going to copy that URL, the input URL from the live event. And under the way that Wirecast works is under output. I click on output settings. I'm going to use an RTMP server. And this address says whatever comes out of Wirecast, send it to this live event right here, that URL. And then Azure Media Services will pick it up and they'll send it out. So let me do that right there. Actually, let me just do myself. That's probably, I'll clear that layer, add it over here. There we go, something a little bit more interesting. Go back to here. I'm starting the event. Oh, I didn't start. I got to start over here. Output, start broadcasting, start all. Broadcasting is not quite right. As I said, it's not broadcasting. It's sending it point to point directly to Azure Media Services. There's that watermark I was talking about. And Azure Media Service, if I reload the player, we should be able to see it in here. There I am. You see a little bit of a lag. You see it was talking when I wasn't. I'll leave it muted for now. And I can create an output here to make it available to the universe. There's the output. I can tell it to, the rewind window allows you, this is how often it's going to archive. Do you want to let people rewind for 8 hours? Then they won't be able to watch it for 8 hours. Some people will actually do this twice, like have one short rewind and one long rewind. I can give that a name. This is the name that CNUG live event, when it archives it as an Azure asset or as an Azure Media Services asset, then that'll be the name that it'll use. So there we go. It's ready. It's going. And it says it's not available. That's not true. I need to reload the player. Let's do that. There we go. And so there it is live. And you can see that there is a little bit of a lag here between this and that. But after a few seconds, it'll show me wave, I think. Let's see. Come on, wave. Yeah. And that's it here. And this I can actually use in a in my web page as well. I can take, if I go back to, where is that? Here, I don't need the live captioning anymore. But if I just add this right here, change that one, and then I should be able to use this URL right here, right there. Save that. And now when I play it, then what I would expect to see is my live broadcast with a few seconds delay. And there it is. So that is live streaming. And the only part, I mean, that you don't absolutely have to use, you don't have to use Wirecast. You can use whatever you want for your capture software. So let me stop this. I'll just kill that, stop it. I won't save it. I'll go back to here and I will stop this. And I really want to stop this because this is kind of expensive. A good rule of thumb with Azure is that storage is cheap, compute is expensive. And compute streaming is one of the more expensive things. Whereas just storing those assets, that's cheap. I don't have the exact numbers, but it's an order of magnitude cheaper than streaming. So you want to make sure that you're always shutting these things down when they're not being used, and that's a good point for expiring things. If you know something's not going to be used after next Tuesday, have it expire next Tuesday, just in case you forget to turn it off. Okay, I'll show you, actually, while I have this here, I'll show you this one project that I'm working on here. This is all a bunch, there's a library that does a whole bunch of stuff in here. It does things like encodes videos. Where am I? Creates a streaming locator after it encodes them and starts that locator. It all sorts of things using the API. And if I run this thing, this UI right here is some of these take a while. So if I encode it, I've already encoded it. I've also saving it in the Azure SQL table, so it remembers the last time I encoded. That's where it's stored in this asset. There's the streaming locator. If I create a brand new stream locator, it shows up right here. There's the video that I want you to right here. And let me just jump ahead. I'll jump back a little bit. You might even know some of these folks in here. Some of them are user group. People speak at user groups quite a bit. But this video is from 13 years ago. It's one that I created for a charity event that we did a long time ago. And I picked it because there's a lot of scenes. So one of the things that happens in here is that it'll detect all these scenes. If I analyze the video and I click on analyze, it takes about 15 minutes to analyze this whole video, and I get this JSON file that's thousands of lines long. But once I have that JSON file, I can parse it out and I can figure out, let's get all the scenes for that JSON file. And maybe about 60 seconds, it goes through that. And essentially it parses out. Let me see if I can find that file. Right here. I don't know what it's in here. C/test. Oh, maybe not. I don't have a copy of that file. I thought I did. But when it does that, it parses it all out and it figures where the scenes are, and it knows where each scene starts and stops. From scene 1 is from 0 to 9 seconds. Scene 2 is from 9 seconds to 2.5 minutes. And so if I want to get scene 6, it's from 8.5 minutes to 11:06. So what is that? It's about 2 minutes and 35 seconds long. And this link right here takes me to that video, and it is 2 minutes and 36 seconds long right here. And it's mostly Don here talking. That's one scene. It's all in one room, which is one scene. So on here. So that's what I'm doing. And then this is, it's saving it all to a SQL database so I can come back later on and use it, create a streaming locator for a specific scene. If I wanted to encode one specific scene, I could do that, and so on. And that's all done through this. I hope to have this out on GitHub at some point. Right now, I'm doing it for an internal project, but I think the ultimate goal is to make this code available publicly. And maybe in the next couple of months, I'll have that out there. If so, I'll be blogging about it. So another good reason to read my blog.
This is really cool. This is so you're basically parsing the JSON file and putting out all the information that it has.
That is exactly what I'm doing. What I did is I go into Azure Blob Storage. So if I do, here, let me show it to you really quickly. If I go to the portal here, what? Made me fail. Give me that. Failed nonsense. What's going on over here? Here's the portal. And I'll go to my other one, this media service right here. This is the media service here. And there's an asset here that I analyze. There's the analysis for it. And I look at, then I go into the storage container all through the SDK. There's an object model in here. And in here, there is that insights.json file. Somewhere, there it is, insights.json. If I download this file right there, open it up, and then say format document, there it is. And then I come down here to the section where it's scenes. And you can see there's scene 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Each one has a start and an end. There's also a just a start. There's no sometimes they have filler at the beginning, but in this case they don't. So start and end are the same as just start and end. But I think what I say there were 11 scenes, something like that. 7, 8, 9, 10 scenes. And I just parsed them all out and I encoded it one time, but I created a filter for each endpoint. So I've got 10 different endpoints, each with a different filter on it. And that's all done through the API. And this is kind of an ugly one. I'm working on making it a little bit prettier here. If you click on that, then there's my 10 scenes. Where's where it starts, there's where it ends. That's in seconds. And that's the link to scene 3 right there, which is 3 minutes and 48 seconds long. So when I get this a little bit nicer, then I'll share the code with the world. All right, I'll turn my camera back on. And I think I have one slide left. Let me see here. I mentioned this before. Stop streaming the endpoints when you're not needed. Storage is cheap. Compute is expensive. Just know that. Don't be burning money unless you're making money on it. Think about your audience. What kind of devices are they using? Do you need to have a broad range of devices and service them all, or is everybody on a phone on a low latency network, or is everybody inside of your building on basically the same laptops? Just consider that when you consider what formats you're going to put things in. Think about the location. Do we need to have a CDN? I didn't really go over the CDN, but there is a way of pushing things out around the world so there's less latency in different parts of the world. Think about security. You could put digital rights management on these photos or these videos. You could put expiration on them. You get the storage. Obviously, there's all kinds of security you can put on both containers and on individual blobs within Azure Blob Storage. But consider that. Think about those things. That's what I have. One more thing, actually. No, let me show you this. I do have one thing. If you go to my blog, then you will see there is one. I should put a link in here. It's at davidgiard.com. And it's probably easier if I just let Google find it. It's Azure Media Services, davidgiard.com. I'll have to dig for it. And what I wanted was Azure, that one right there. This right here. So I did a bunch of videos and I wrote a bunch of articles that go through a lot of the same things that I talked about today. So yes, Mayank has recorded this, but if you want to go see things in a more bite-sized format or actually point to the code, some of this has code out of GitHub, you can go ahead and look at this right here. And I will paste this into the meetup chat. How about that? Thank you for coming. Read more about Azure Media Services at there. My name is David. Thank you very much.
Excellent. Thank you very much, David.
Very cool. Thanks.